Today I thought I'd talk about two decoding strategies, what they are, and when I use each of them. So one of them is successive blending and the other is backward decoding using onset and rhyme. So let's start with successive blending. This is a strategy that you would use when a student or a group of students are having a hard time blending phonemes or blending sounds. So in other words, they know that M says A spells a, and T spells t. But when they go to put it together, this happens, at, but they can't say mat. They can't blend the sounds together. So the issue is with phoneme blending. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at what's the issue here. We know, they know the letters and their most common sounds. That's not the issue. The issue is phoneme blending. And this is, I think, the best strategy to use when phoneme blending is the issue, when they're still developing those skills. So what you do is you first train them to blend the first two sounds, and then go back and then add in that last one. So let me show you. Ma. This just says ma. Now, at this point, almost always, I have a student shout out, map, mat, anything, man. Like they're just shouting out anything that they can. So I have to remind them we've only read ma so far. And now let's see what the last sound is. I'm going to go back now. We know this is ma, so let's get our mouths ready and say mat, mat. Now I'd like to actually turn it around so that they can't actually see the last sound. And I'm sorry, I know I've talked about this before, so I'm sorry, this is the second time. But I'll go over how I do that. So I'd say, okay, let's read these two and put these two together first. Ma. And then I'll reveal, it's going to be mat. All right, let's find out what the next one is. What does this say again? If we need to, we can sound it out again. Ma. This says ma. Ma. Map. So I keep doing that, and I do it with all of the possible endings. And what that does is, a couple things. Number one, it's showing them the importance of, wow, I really do need to pay attention to that last sound, because there's a lot of words that start with ma, so we can't guess. We have to read through the whole word. So it's showing them the importance of reading through the whole word and not just guessing. And it's also showing them, like I said, just how many words it could be. So and this is not overnight. I still definitely have students who read the first two sounds and want to guess. So I really, really encourage them to, okay, we're going to read that sound, and then we want to focus on that last sound, and that physical tapping of the last sound, mat, and then go to that last one and tap it, really helps. And I say, if you need to, you can enunciate that last one as you tap it so that you make sure you get that last sound in there. So that's successive blending. It's, I think, the best strategy for those kids who struggle with blending sounds. I think that's the best one. Now let's talk about backward decoding with onset and rhyme. Okay, so just to make sure that we're all on the same page, this is onset, this is rhyme, R-I-M-E, otherwise known as like word endings. Some people call them word families. That's just like the technical term, onset, rhyme. And backward decoding is when you train your students to read the vowel and everything after that. So that's the rhyme, is the vowel and everything after it. So they're going to read it, and then they're going to go back and say b, it. Now, when do I use this one? I don't necessarily use this strategy if the issue is phoneme blending. And that's because that's the hard part for them usually, is like combining b, which is not a stretching sound, with it. They'll kind of go b, it, and they might even get that but, they can't figure out bit. So I don't necessarily use this if the issue is phoneme blending. I do use this, though, as a strategy to help them read more words and kind of get that word recognition, because that's the goal, right, is word recognition. And if they know it and they can read it quickly and they don't have phoneme blending issues, it's more of an issue of like remembering the words or adding, getting more word recognition. And of course, yes, we're going to do phoneme grapheme mapping, all of that, but it's a myth that you do phoneme grapheme mapping once and they magically know the word. No, phoneme grapheme mapping is essential and so important, but like I think we've all worked with students where it still takes a long time then to get it after that. Repetition, repetition. And I think that's where the backward decoding comes in handy. I spend a lot of time on these rhymes and it. We want to map the word it, and I take the time to map it. It doesn't have to be the word, just the rhyme it. And then I really talk about all the different words that we can spell with it. Bit, sit, kit. We go through all those, I show them, and then you can do activities like this where you have it and then you have the different, like behind me, you have the different onsets or initial sounds, and they're going to combine them and see all the different words they can or can't make. But the idea here, the goal here is word recognition and automaticity with decoding. So with successive blending, it's like I want them to be able to blend the sounds together. I use onset rhyme when I want to get automaticity with decoding. So I want them to not go it, bit forever. I want them to be able, okay, I know it, I can read it, it, bit. And it does work. Like if this were a stretching sound, then it does help to read it first. And I mean, that does work, but I use it more for like getting them that automaticity, getting them beyond the every single sound and recognizing, oh, I've seen this a couple times. A lot of words have it. So that's how I use that. So I just wanted to kind of talk about when I use each strategy, and that each strategy really is pretty helpful.